In this lecture, let's have an overview of the user interface of Oracle VM VirtualBox Manager 7. Now, once you've got your application open, on your top left, you'll see File menu, and if you click on it, the first option you'll see is Preferences. So I'll click on that. Now, under General, the first setting that you'll see is Default Machine Folder, which is basically where your virtual machine files are stored. Now for a Windows system, the default location is C drive, users, your username / VirtualBox VMs. Now you can change this by clicking on this down arrow and then clicking on other. And now you can choose any other folder from your file system to host the virtual machine files. I want to keep it as default for me, so I'll cancel out of this one. The next one is VRDP authentication library. Basically, VirtualBox Manager can display virtual machines from another computer by using remote desktop. Now, for that, it needs an authentication library. This is the authentication file for that library. Now, if the file is stored somewhere else in your system, you can choose this and then click on Other to choose the location of your VBox authentication file from your file system. So I'll cancel out of this. Now, next is Input. Now you can use input to look at or change the shortcut keys for various operations that you can perform inside VirtualBox Manager or on a virtual machine. For example, to add a virtual machine, the default shortcut is Control A, and if I double click on it, I can change the default option to be something else. I want to keep it as default, so let's move on. Now next is the update options, where you can choose to change the defaults for how soon VirtualBox Manager checks for updates. Now you can do that by clicking on this checkbox, and you can choose from 1 day up to a month. So I'll leave it at a month for now. Now next, you can check for stable release versions, which are basically tested and found to be stable versions of VirtualBox Manager. All new releases which might have stable or unstable versions, and all new releases and pre-releases will be a bit more riskier but will have a few more features than your new releases. So it all depends on what features you want and how much risk you are willing to take. I'll leave it at all new stable versions for now. Now next, you can choose to change the language of your VirtualBox Manager. After that, you can also change some display settings, for example, your maximum guest screen size, scale factor for your monitors, font scaling, etc. Now after that, you can choose the proxy configuration settings. For example, if it's a direct connection to internet, you want the system to auto detect proxy settings, or you want to specify a manual proxy configuration. I'll leave it as default auto detect. Now after that, you can change the interface color from light to dark as well. Please note, this setting will only take in effect once you've restarted VirtualBox. So you can choose dark, for example, click on OK. Now you'll have to close VirtualBox and you'll have to reopen it for the setting to take effect. So this is what a dark interface of VirtualBox Manager looks like. So I'll go back to File menu, go back to Preferences, click on Interface, change it back to light because I like light. I'll click on OK, close VirtualBox and reopen it. Now next, you can import and export appliances, and we'll talk about appliances in a different lecture. After that, you have the Tools menu. Now on the Tools menu, the first option you get is the Extension Pack Manager. So let's click on that. Now here you can see which extension packs are installed in your system. You can install new extension packs or uninstall extension packs that you do not want. Now next, let's go back to the File menu, click on Tools and go to the next option, which is Virtual Media Manager. Now from this screen, you can view and manage your media files such as hard disks, optical disks, and floppy disks that you created inside VirtualBox Manager. Now if you click on hard disks, you'll be able to see the existing VDI disk file which we created for our machine test Linux. Now if you look at the attributes of this disk, you can look at things like what type of disk this is, where is it stored. You can add a description to this disk. You can look at the size and change the size. For example, I can use the slider to add more storage to this disk file, but I'll reset it to be default. Now next, you can add an existing disk file that you've got on your machine which is not currently indexed by this VirtualBox Manager. You can create a disk image out of this machine. You can copy the disk image, move the disk image elsewhere, release the disk image, search for a disk image, and look at the properties, which is basically this attributes tab. Now here, if you click on the information tab, you'll be able to see a read-only view of the information about this disk file. Now let's go back to the file menu, and the next one under tools is network manager. Now here you can view the network adapters that you've got on your machine, create them, or remove a network adapter. Now if I click on this adapter and click on properties, I'll be able to see some properties about this adapter. For example, if the adapter has been configured manually or automatically, and the DHCP details of this adapter. Now you can also click on create, for example, to create a new network adapter. For example, once I've created this, I can look at and change the name of the network adapter. I can change the IPv4 prefix. I can change whether DHCP is enabled for this adapter or not. And I can also change port forwarding details. So for example, under this screen under IPv4, I can click on the plus icon and I can create some port forwarding rules. But I'll reset it for now. Now let's go back to File, Tools, Cloud Profile Manager. This is where you can manage the profile for your Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Cloud VMs. Now what you can do is you can click on Add and add a new profile, import a new profile if there is any existing one, or look at the properties of the current profile. After that, under Tools is the VM Activity Overview. Now under here, you can look at things like host CPU load, host RAM load, and host file system load. And if I start this virtual machine, now once the machine is started, I can also look at the usage of the machine's CPU and RAM, etc. Now next, under File menu, we can check for updates if there are any updates available for VirtualBox Manager. Now here on the right hand side, you'll be able to see that there is nothing to update for the moment. So I'll cancel out of this. After that, under File, I can reset all warnings, or I can quit out of VirtualBox Manager. After that, under the machine menu, we can create a new VM, and we've gone through that. So I'll cancel out of that. Or we can add a new VM into the VirtualBox Manager. So I'll cancel out of that as well. Now after that, under resources, I can change the columns that I want to show on the VM activity screen. For example, let's say I don't want to see the network rates, so I'll remove that from the screen. Let's say I don't also want to see RAM use total because I'm not interested in it. So I'll remove all of that, and you'll see that the column will change. Now this was a quick overview of the user interface for the VirtualBox Manager. We have come to the end of this lecture. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye.